Ever heard the phrase, the Dark Ages? You probably imagine gloomy castles, barbaric wars, and a Europe stuck in ignorance after the fall of Rome. A time where science stopped, knowledge vanished, and people believed the earth was flat, right? But what if I told you that image is mostly a myth? Hey everyone, I'm Noah Lobby, and welcome back to Timeless Knowledge Discoveries, the podcast that unpacks the past to inspire your present. Today, we're diving into one of the most misunderstood periods in history, the so-called Dark Ages. Were they really that dark? Or have we just been looking at them through the wrong lens? Spoiler alert, this era, roughly spanning from the 5th to the 15th century, wasn't all gloom and doom. In fact, it was full of innovation, creativity, and quiet revolutions that set the stage for the Renaissance and modern science. So buckle up, because by the end of this episode, you might never call them dark again. Let's start with where this whole Dark Ages narrative even came from. The term was first coined by the Italian scholar Petrarch in the 14th century. He was frustrated with what he saw as a cultural slump following the glory of ancient Rome. To him, anything after the Roman Empire just didn't compare. Later on, Enlightenment thinkers in the 17th and 18th centuries doubled down on that view. They painted the Middle Ages as backward, superstitious, and stagnant, all so they could make their own era look more enlightened and progressive. But the truth? History isn't so black and white. The idea of the Dark Ages is more of a cultural shadow than a factual reality. Let's unpack that. After Rome fell in the 5th century, yes, there was chaos. Trade routes broke down. Cities shrank. Political unity fractured. But does that mean knowledge disappeared? Not even close. Monasteries across Europe became centers of learning. Monks painstakingly copied ancient texts by hand, preserving the wisdom of Greece and Rome. Without these unsung heroes, we might have lost Aristotle, Plato, and much of classical literature forever. In the Islamic world, meanwhile, a golden age was blooming. Scholars in Baghdad, Cairo, and Cordoba were translating Greek texts, inventing algebra, and building astronomical observatories. That knowledge flowed back into Europe through Spain and Italy centuries later. It turns out, the Dark Ages weren't so dark. They were more like a dimly lit room, filled with people quietly building the foundations of our modern world. Now, let's shine a light on some of the forgotten brilliance of this era. 1. Medieval universities. Did you know that the first universities in Europe were founded in the Middle Ages? Bologna, Oxford, Paris, these weren't just religious institutions. They were hubs of debate, discovery, and curiosity. Scholars were discussing natural philosophy, law, logic, medicine, and mathematics. They were forming the very structure of higher education we still use today. 2. The Agricultural Revolution. While knights were jousting, peasants and monks were transforming agriculture. The invention of the heavy plough, crop rotation systems, and water mills massively increased food production. This, in turn, helped stabilize societies and allowed towns to grow. 3. Architecture and engineering. Ever walked through a Gothic cathedral? Those soaring arches, stained glass windows, and flying buttresses weren't just beautiful, they were engineering marvels. Cathedrals like Notre Dame and Chartres weren't just places of worship. They were symbols of community effort, technical genius, and mathematical precision. 4. The mechanical clock. Yes, mechanical clocks were invented in the 13th century, long before the Renaissance. Timekeeping evolved in medieval monasteries where schedules of prayer needed precision. 5. Eyeglasses and windmills. Eyeglasses were developed around the 13th century in Italy. Windmills helped harness natural energy long before industrialization. So, if the Middle Ages were dark, they sure had a lot of bright ideas. We often imagine the Middle Ages as dirty, violent, and hopeless. But what about music? Art? Festivals? Life was community-based. People gathered for church feasts, danced at seasonal fairs, and shared stories by the hearth. Medieval towns had markets buzzing with trade, bakers shouting fresh bread, and children playing with wooden toys. Folk tales, riddles, and songs passed down wisdom and humor. Love poems were composed. Paintings were created. It was a different rhythm of life, but full of its own color and humanity. And don't forget, women like Hildegard of Bingen were composing music, writing texts, and contributing to science and philosophy. Even among challenges like plagues and war, people found meaning, connection, and moments of joy. So why does it matter that we get the Dark Ages story right? Because how we talk about the past shapes how we see ourselves today. When we dismiss an entire era as dark, we erase centuries of human struggle, creativity, and growth. We also miss the chance to learn from a time that was far more complex than we imagine. The Middle Ages were a bridge, not a void, between antiquity and the modern world. And like any bridge, they were built with care, stone by stone. Understanding this helps us appreciate the long journey of human progress and stay humble about the challenges we still face. Plus, it reminds us that brilliance can bloom even in times of crisis. Just like in the Middle Ages, we too are living in an era of transformation. And maybe, just maybe, people 500 years from now will look back at our time with the same misunderstanding. Let's leave them something inspiring. So, was the Dark Ages really dark? Not quite. It was a time of preservation, quiet innovation, unexpected creativity, and the relentless pursuit of knowledge. Sure, it wasn't perfect. There were famines, wars, and fear. But there was also art, community, and discovery. It was the seedbed for the Renaissance and everything that followed. History is more than dates and kings. It's the heartbeat of human experience. And sometimes, when we dig a little deeper, we realize that what looks like darkness from a distance was actually a candlelit path forward. Thanks for joining me on this journey through time. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story that changes the way you see the world. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep discovering. This is Noah Lobby, signing off from Timeless Knowledge Discoveries.